Hi, and welcome back to Winter Market. Today, we're gonna be talking about thread painting. So, growing up, I grew up near the North Cascades up in Washington, and we would go every winter to the mountains. And so today I wanted to do a thread painting of my home and do a mountain scenery. So I used QCT to draw out a square, and this is just gonna frame my piece so I don't go outside the lines. It'll be really simple. And then I also had it draw the road, so I didn't have to do any ruler work for this. I tried out multiple different feet when I did my original project, and I found that the micro stippling foot is gonna be the best for this type of project. So that's what I have here on the 21X Elite. We're gonna start by using Snow White as our first color, and I'm not gonna worry about changing the bobbin color because it's just gonna be either a wall hanging or maybe I'll frame it, we'll see. But the bobbin doesn't matter. So I just have pearl white in the bobbin and I'll stay with that the whole time. For this type of painting, I do like to use a lower SPI, so I'm gonna lower it down to about 7 so that it has that bigger stitch to it. All right, so we're gonna start by painting a little bit of the sky to give it a snowy, kind of cloudy look. I am just doing some free motion here. And I'm just gonna make my way echoing back over to this corner here so that I can go ahead and tie off. So with our Finesse Classic line, we have several different types of brown, and I kind of wanted to mix up the colors that I do for these tree trunks to add dimension and texture. So I'll be using some variegateds and some solids to add the different colors of the tree trunks to the project here. And I am gonna start with brownie. One thing to keep in mind when you're thread painting is to make sure that your tension is pretty low. When you're putting a lot of stress on some of the thread and doing a lot of back and forth, especially for this section, you're gonna wanna have a lower tension. And for this section, I'm not gonna worry about pulling up my bobbin at all. Because we're gonna be moving from place to place, we'll just keep it messy underneath there. But I'm gonna start by making a big happy tree here. So we'll go up and down here to make this trunk. Really make it look like a tree trunk. All right, so we've got one tree, and then I'm gonna go ahead and space some trees throughout this. I'm gonna vary the sizes and shapes of each tree. I'm gonna leave room between so that we have room for the other colors of trunks. And it's okay that we've got a little bump there. We will cover that up. All right, and before I switch, I'm just gonna trim all my tails. I think I'm going to add in here some blondie. And this one's gonna be really tall. For our last trunk color, we're gonna go ahead and use mocha. All right, so we've got all of our trunks here. I'm gonna go ahead and trim my threads, and then we can start on adding some of that greenery. And we have lots of different colors of green as well. And I'm gonna start with seaweed green. And I'm just gonna go back and forth, up and down, just like I would if I was drawing a Christmas tree. You can see the kind of loops I'm making here. And I am gonna go above the trunk as well, because at the top of the trees, you can't really see the trunk. And this guide on the side is super helpful because it tells me right where I need to stop I don't feel the pressure to fill in some of that side area. And this is a great time to start using the bobbin estimator. I forgot to set it when I first started. So we'll go ahead and open up our toolbox and go to bobbin estimator, and I'm gonna add a bobbin. We're gonna call it white. Enter. And we know that there are 80 yards on a roll of bobbin, but I am pulling up my bobbin a little bit, so I'm gonna set it to 75 so I don't run out again. And let's add in a little bit of emerald. This one's gonna be a tall tree too. So we'll go ahead and start here. So now we're getting into some of that layering. You can see we're gonna overlap with this other tree. One of the other reasons I use white in the bobbin is because it kind of peeks through. When you're doing the thread painting, your tension is going to be a little different than it is with regular quilting. So using white in the bobbin is kind of fun. We're adding a little bit more dimension here. And I'm going to leave some more of the trunk exposed on this one, so it peeks right through. I like to try and mix up some of our thread colors. There we go. And then we'll come down here and just get a little bit of dimension on this edge where the tree kind of has a bud. All right, so we'll use our last screen here to fill in those last few trees. And for this one, I'm going to use Kelly green. And this is really going to be vibrant, so it'll be lots of fun here. And we're going to get a little bit loopy with this one too. So we pop in. Love how vibrant this Kelly green is. It's important to make sure when you're doing a long painting like this that you don't lock your knees. Make sure you're rocking back and forth on the balls of your feet so that you don't get tired. So to add the snow, we're going to use the same method that we used on the trees and just lightly go over the top of the green. Not as dense, but just dense enough that you can tell there's snow definitely on the tops, and then we'll kind of loosen up as we come down the bottom. And you can get dense near the top here. Usually there's a lot of dense snow on top of the trees. This also helps highlight the overlapping that we did in the last step. And having this snow match the texture of the trees can really highlight the work that we did with all of that green. So we've gotten our trees, we've gotten the snow on top of the trees. I think it's time to add a few bushes and dogwood trees towards the bottom. So I'm going to use some of my lighter browns that we talked about earlier, and I might mix in some of my darker ones too, we'll see. So where you are switching colors a lot sometimes, it can be good to try this technique. So what I'm going to do is I just trimmed my white thread above this thread guide here. And I'm going to take the end of my white thread and the end of my brown thread. And I'm just going to tie a little knot here. So these two are tied together. And I'm going to pull. And as I pull through, I can trim off that knot and I can thread the needle. So I am going to start at the bottom, and these ones are going to be more branchy. So we're going to focus more on the branches than we do on the trunks. And we're going to make this one a little bit taller. And he's going to overlap with some of our other trees. We're just going to go up to get the base of that. We're going to go over, back a little bit, and up, and back down. So go over, up, add another one, just until you feel satisfied with the number and the type of branches that you have. So this one, maybe he'll have 3 arms on that one. And I'll just add 1 there. We're gonna make this one a tall dogwood tree. Growing up, we had a huge dogwood tree in our backyard, and it was always so fun when the snow fell on it because you could see the branches, and it really just stuck out well with the rest of the trees in our backyard. We had a nice big green belt behind us, so anytime it snowed, you could see the snow falling on top of those trees, and then the sun would shine through it, and it really was just such a beautiful sight. And you can make these branches as thin or as thick as you want to. And these will be fun because as we start to add more colors, they'll really intertwine together. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and swap this one out with latte. Oh, I love the look of a variegated thread on this. It's really adding a lot of that texture that we're looking for. And for this one, I'm going to start at the bottom and kind of move up. I'm going to overlap a little bit with some of these other trees and bushes that we've done here. I'm going to make these branches change direction a little bit as they come across. For this next technique, we're going to go ahead and do something similar to pebbling. We're gonna add snow bubbles to the trees that'll also give that dogwood effect. I'm just gonna go ahead and add, kind of doing a little loopy meander, but also making sure I'm getting that pebble shape. And again, this is one you definitely want a higher SPI on since you are working in such a small area. So I have mine set to 13 right now. Come back down, gonna do another one over here. So we're sort of mixing pebbles with a loopy meander, retracing our steps instead of doing echo lines. So this is kind of a fun way to add texture and to add layering to your design. So we can see the other colors pop through, but also to be able to make these trees look like they're all connected. As we have one big layer here. All of the snow on the branches kind of leads into the look we're gonna achieve here as we get towards the bottom. So we've got this layer done. The next thing we're gonna do, I think, is add some bushes in here. So for these little ground bushes, I am going to do some swirls that are very tight and that overlap. So we're gonna mix a swirl with a loopy meander. We really just wanna fill it all the way in and overlap itself. All right, so now we can move on to our next thread color, and we are gonna highlight the swirls to make that snow effect. And for the snow on the road, as anyone who lives anywhere that it snows knows, it never stays white when it's on the road. So we're gonna add a little bit of smoky quartz, and it's still got that white color, but it has just enough gray that I think it's really gonna make the snowbank pop here. All right, and then we're gonna do the middle of the road as well. And go back and forth, slowly narrowing my design here. So we've got our baseline of that smoky quartz. I'm gonna go in, add just a little bit more of that snow white to add in some snow and a little bit more texture, and then we'll be done. As you can see, we've got our completed design. If you wanted to, you could add some extra snowflakes up in the top. You could add some yellow for the rest of that road. But I think we have a great design here. Thank you so much for joining us for this segment. We hope you enjoy the rest of your winter market.